Hello guys, for those of you that are watching that don't know who I am, for over a year now I've been playing a Iron Man locked only to the wilderness. As you can imagine, this blog is something that I'm very interested in and frankly ecstatic to see come out. I'll give you what I think is the balanced review of the update and explain then how it will affect Wildanator. Before I start, I'd like to say a huge thanks to the mods who have done a really good job on writing this blog. Over 30,000 of you absolute legends answered questions on the initial wilderness survey. It was answered a fairly even balance between people that regularly go into the wilderness and those of you that never go into the wilderness. The most common reason people go into the wilderness, according to the survey, is for clues, and the least common is for money making, which goes to show the risk versus reward for money making isn't quite where it needs to be within the wilderness. However, this blog addresses that and the changes that they'll be making. Skull tricking. The blog revealed that 68% of people choose not to attack back in the wilderness and 70% believe skull tricking is a big problem. Jagex are concerned that turning off your auto retaliate and not attacking back concerned of being skull trick takes away from the PvP aspect of the game. They haven't confirmed what they would like to do but have said they are looking into adding an option along the lines of disable attacks that would result in getting skulled. My opinion is skull tricking videos are some of the most entertaining I've seen, but for the sake of the longevity of the wilderness I think it's a positive change. Someone who has been skull tricked is far less likely to venture into the wilderness or try the PvP aspect of the game again. A player should be aware of their risk in my belief. So if you can find a way to coding being able to attack back without accidentally sculling, I think it's a good thing. I don't have too many worries about being skull tricked on Wilder, and if I was, I would just accept it's my own fault, but preventing the problem would be a nice change, and I think I'd be more comfortable taking in those big ticket items. Luring. Jagex want to map extra safe areas around banks and hotspot locations in PvP worlds to stop players from unintentionally straying into danger zones. They also want to make doors always open in PvP worlds. Luring is quite obviously bad, so anything that helps prevent this problem is a big thumbs up from me. This part really doesn't affect Wilder in any way. Single plus combat and PJ timer. I'm going to assume you all know what single and multi-way combat zones are. Single plus is newer and I believe the Rev Caves are the only place in game which has it currently. Singles plus means one player at a time can attack you but they take priority over an NPC. So even if you're in combat with an NPC, a PK can still tag you off. Here's a big one boys, they will be changing all single way combat to singles plus. They want to stop players being able to box NPCs to wait out teleblocks and things. They will also be adding a PJ timer to all single plus areas and this will be 10 seconds. In my opinion there's no downside to adding a PJ timer and it should have been done a long time ago. The singles plus is a super interesting one. From a PK's point of view this is an absolutely fantastic update. Finding NPCs to box was always an interesting method of escaping. I can now think of several locations within the wilderness where a 5-minute teleblock will mean almost certain death. As the PJ timer is 10 seconds, it's not quite enough time to get the 3s and log I don't think when coming across multiple PKs, which might mean bad news for Wildanator at times. But all in all, I'm happy for the PKs and I'm going to say it's a pretty positive update. Loot keys. These are very similar to Deadman keys. Anything a player would have dropped will now be in one convenient key. This will really help manage inventory space. They believe it will also stop looters hanging around in PvP hotspots. They want to make loot keys and unlock from the Ferox Enclave for 5 million coins. Once you've unlocked it, you have it permanently and it's toggleable on and off. A player can hold up to 5 of them at once, after which PvP drops will revert to their normal functionality until they have either redeemed or destroyed a key. Keys can only be redeemed at a bank or destroyed, they cannot be banked. Killing another player who has a loot key will assign you their most valuable key. If you already have a lot in your inventory, you will receive the most valuable key until you're holding a total of 5. Skull players that have 2 or more keys in their inventory will have a skull icon above their head, and this shows how many keys they hold. You will be able to tailor your keys to exclude things like potions or food, or set a GP threshold of items that you do not wish to take. This doesn't affect Wildanator as irons are excluded from using this for obvious reasons. I think it's a fantastic update. I don't really see a downside to this and I think it will make for some really interesting content from people that enjoy PKing. Iron accounts and PvP loots. Currently, an Iron player that gets defeated in the wilderness or PvP worlds, they cannot pick up their dropped items. This means a player can run back at where they perished and just pick up their items, removing a lot of the thrill from fighting another player on such dangerous terms in the first place. They want to make it more interesting and they want everybody to be able to see the loot on the ground but nobody to be able to pick it up. This includes the person that got PK'd. I think this is a really cool idea. I love the thought that everyone is just there staring at an AGS on the ground and no one's able to pick it up. It is worth noting that this doesn't include untradables, so you'll still be able to retrieve or fix them. Equipment rebalancing. None of these really directly affect Wildanator, so I'll just be running through and giving my opinion and overall thoughts. Din's Bulwark. The Din's has previously received a nerf, despite Jagex considering nerfing it further. They've decided not to do that. Instead, it looks like they've tried making it a proper tank shield tailored more towards PvM. They have done this by offering offensive stats off the back of your defensive gear that you're wearing. They are also making it 5 tick rather than 7 tick. I'm super excited to see what niche holes this might fill within the tanking role. Zerican robes. Slight nerf on the old salad robes to the magic attack bonuses, but not too much to say on this one. I feel for the cost of the item, it's a very fair change. Elemental staffs. Opposite end, they're getting a small buff to both battle staffs and mystic staffs. I don't hold too much of an opinion on this one. It seems like quite a minor buff, but I'm sure they're doing it to keep it in line with other similar items. Dragonhide armor. Everyone knew that nerf was coming to D'hide, but it's slightly less harsh than initially planned. It's still enough of a nerf that's going to be quite impactful, and I think it's in line with how easy / cheap it is to get D'hide. A positive change in my opinion. Blessed D'hide won't be hit from the nerf, which I think is really positive, as it's naturally much harder to obtain and just can't be made. It also looks like Shawnee's Make Blessed D'hide Chaps 1 defense campaign has really paid off, as the Blessed D'hide Chaps and Vans will be accessible at 1 defense. With the nerf of other D'hides and the defense requirements scrapped on Blessed D'hide, I'd expect the value for Blessed D'hides to really go up, which I think makes the +2 prayer bonus, which Pures will now be able to access, really justifiable. Revenant Caves. They will be changing the way you can exit the Revenant Cave, only allowing you to exit from the northern entrance. This will obviously make it more dangerous, only having one way out of the cave. After speaking to some of the boys in Discord, the concern is that teams will hold down that one and only exit. I really hope Jagex have thought about how they can stop this being an issue. The last thing we want is teams controlling the Revenant Caves again and going back where people had to pay for protection. This is obviously only if someone lands a TB, otherwise you'd just be able to teleport out there. As Wildanator doesn't have a level 30 teleport and no worthwhile revs reside under level 20, if a PK sees me, we can't insta-tele, which means I'm always tanking to the north exit or having to do the old entangle and log trick. But assuming this doesn't allow a way for clans to run the rev caves like before, I think this is a really cool update and adds an additional element of danger to the revenants. In response to some of the survey results, initial monitoring and player feedback, Jagex will be making a series of balancing changes to the revenants. They will be increasing the number of revenants available in the caves, starting with an additional spawn in each location. I think this is really nice. Revenants have become frustrating, especially at peak times, because you can't actually get a revenant. I feel the frustration should lay in other areas than simply not being able to attack the monsters you came to kill. They will be reducing the spawn timer by 30%, so they will spawn faster, so you won't have to hop worlds constantly. This is another really nice one. I think I've got about 18k Revenant kills at the moment, and meta is definitely hopping worlds, and it definitely shouldn't be. So I think it will remain roughly the same kills per hour, but you won't have to constantly be world hopping, so that's a really nice change. They will be adding a cooldown to their healing mechanic, so they cannot heal again and again. I think this is really nice. The current healing mechanic is super inconsistent and broken in my opinion. Sometimes it won't heal at all during the kill, and honestly sometimes it will heal like 20 times. They will be adding unique mechanic to the Revenant Dragon, Dark Beast and Orc, so they are more engaging to fight. I'm curious if these new mechanics will make it much tougher. If they do, it might be meta to kill the Revenants lower than the Orc, but I'm really interested in seeing and excited what these new mechanics entail. Revenants will be weaker against different combat styles. Encouraging a variety of weapons, it's time to dust off your bows, scepters and chain maces. This is really interesting. In my head it's almost like demonic gorillas where you'll have to change your attack style. I'd love the scepter to get some use, as currently it's completely useless anywhere and it's a really rare item. Again, through chatting to Discord, we do feel they may have missed a trick by not making the scepter like the trident where you store runes in it, as it currently doesn't really make sense the way it is. Certain item drops from the Revenants will no longer be noted, meaning players will need to keep an Amulet of Avarice equipped if they want to ensure all drops are noted. The Amulet of Avarice is upgraded to provide 20% more accuracy and damage towards the Revenants, much like the Salvami currently does. So this is just a straight up huge buff to the Avarice. This is really interesting as the Avarice auto skulls you when it's worn, so it adds that risk versus reward element. I'm curious now if on Wildanator it will be meta to use the Avarice and Magic Shortbow Sculled over the Crossbow Unsculled, but we will certainly be testing all of this and finding out. The standard drop from the Revenant drop table will be improved by 50%. A 50% buff is absolutely huge, but the majority of players did think that they felt the money per hour from revs was simply too low. I think this is positive for the risk versus reward and should suit both PVMers and PKers alike. It does now mean if you were able to kill revenants and never be attacked, which feasibly wouldn't happen, it would become one of the best money makers in the game currently. The Revenant boss. Over 80% of people said they would like to see a Revenant boss. It will have a broadcast across the world for the people that are in the cave, so they'll have to look for it and hunt it down and kill it. The reward for doing so is 3 rolls off the Revenant Dragon drop table. For me, this just isn't quite enough. By the time you hunted the boss down and fought him, you could have got those 3 kills without having to have the added risk of having to go to a busy area that will likely be full of both PVMers and PKers to fight the boss. I'd have liked to see maybe a buffed rate to the mega rares and possibly them even halved. I mean, even off the dragon, which is the best possible chance of the weapons, it's still a 1 in 22k, so that's still incredibly rare. So having it at 1 at 11k off a boss seems reasonable to me. On Wildanator, I'm sure I'll try a few bosses, but the risk versus reward just isn't where I need it to be for me, so I imagine normally I'll probably avoid fighting that. Wilderness Slayer Caves. They will be removing the stalagmites to make the cannon more optimal there. Cannoning within the Slayer Caves has always been some of the best Slayer XP in game. This doesn't really affect Wildanator, as we don't have access to the cannon. They will be updating drop tables, giving them their own unique drops to their counterparts outside of the cave, much like the Catacombs of Korend. I really like this change. The Wilderness Cave has become increasingly dead over time, so this should really bring some life back to it for both PKers and PVMers alike. New Slayer only areas will be added to the cave for Abyssal Demons, Dust Devils, Jellies and Necreals. Each of these will also benefit from the previously mentioned Wilderness Slayer Cave unique drop table. I think this is such an exciting change, especially for Wildanator. Disregarding the Vigorous Chainmace, the Rune Sim is our best melee weapon at the moment, so it will go from being a Rune Sim to an Abyssal Whip, which is absolutely insane. I can't wait to see what else we might be able to upgrade through these new creatures. I'm pretty sure there'll be things like D-Chains, Abyssal Daggers, extra rain bonuses through Van Braces, and I'm sure there'll be a few more that we can hunt down. They are also adding superior monsters to the Wilderness Slayer Caves. Killing one of these will give you 3 rolls on the respective monsters drop table, a roll on the Blighted drop table, and finally a Laren's Key. They did address both Wilderness Boss rework and Wilderness Clues. They will still be reworking the Wilderness Bosses. This will just come later in the year. Unfortunately, at the moment they won't be adding Wildy Clues, but they said they are open to the idea of revisiting. I'm absolutely gutted about this, but I can't complain too much as the rest of the blog was absolutely fantastic. I really hope they do revisit and implement the idea in the future though, as I feel there's so much scope with Wilderness Clues. I'd love to see some mechanics from the Major Arena 2 bosses, where you dig and have to fight a creature that can freeze and teleblock you. It would make completing a Wildy Clue really dangerous but exciting. You might need to walk to your next location because you've been teleblocked and you might run into a PK or something along the way. It could be really, really cool. I just feel there's so much scope for it, so if they could add it in the future, obviously I'd be a very, very happy chappy. All in all, really exciting stuff. When these updates drop, Wildanator will be going into a Season 2 phase with a reviews, goals list, and so much new, exciting content to explore and complete within the wilderness. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my thoughts and hearing the update. I know some people prefer to listen to the update than read it, so I hope that it might help you out a little bit. As I say, this isn't my normal type of video. If you are interested in watching the Wilderness Only Iron Man series and you haven't seen some of my videos, I have a full playlist and we've been making some really nice progress on that. So, consider subscribing to see a little bit more of that and liking this video if you enjoyed it. And until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching and listening to me ramble on. Goodbye.